My daughter hasn't answered my calls in over 8 years. I've left voicemails on birthdays, on holidays, even on the day I thought I might die.
Hey, sweetie, it's Mom again.
Silence.
I know you're busy, but
Always
please just
silence.
call me back. I'm really worried
But
about
last
you. I
week,
love you.
something changed. Not because she called me back, but because the police called her. And they told her the truth about me, a truth I had buried for years to protect her. I don't know what they said exactly. All I know is for the first time in nearly a decade, my phone rang. And it was her. If you've ever lost someone you love while they're still alive, you'll understand this kind of pain. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you, where are you listening from? And what time is it for you right now? And if this story touches you in any way, please subscribe, and share your thoughts with me. Sometimes telling the truth comes too late, but sometimes it's the only thing that can bring us back. I live in a small, quiet house on the edge of Columbus, Ohio. It's the kind of neighborhood where nothing really changes. Same mailboxes, same trimmed lawns, same neighbors who wave politely but never ask too many questions. On the outside, my life probably looks peaceful. But silence, I've learned, can be louder than any storm. Every morning, I wake up at 6:30, even though I haven't needed an alarm in years. Old habits from when Lily was still in school, I suppose. I make coffee the same way I always have: 2 scoops, a splash of cream, no sugar. I sit at the kitchen table across from the empty chair that used to be hers. And then I check my phone. It's always the same. No missed calls, no messages, no notifications. Still, I check. I don't know why I do it. Maybe hope doesn't die. It just becomes quieter, more patient, more stubborn. There's a photo on the fridge that I've never had the heart to take down. Lily is 8 years old in it, missing her front tooth, holding up a drawing she made at school. She had written in messy crayon letters, "My mom is my best friend." I remember that day so clearly. She had run into my arms when I picked her up, talking so fast I could barely understand her. "Mom! Mom, look what I made!" Mrs. Henderson said it was the best one. I kept that drawing for years. I still have it tucked inside a box in my bedroom. Some nights when the house feels too quiet, I take it out and trace the letters with my fingers as if I can somehow go back in time. Back to when she still loved me. Back to before everything broke. I tried calling her again last Tuesday. I told myself I wouldn't, but I always say that, and I always break it. The phone rang 3 times before it went to voicemail. Her voice came through the speaker, calm and distant. "You've reached Lily Carter. Please leave a message." I hate how grown-up her voice sounds now. It reminds me of all the years I've missed. "Hi, sweetheart, it's Mom," I said, my voice trembling more than I wanted it to. I was thinking about you today. I saw something that reminded me of when you used to." I stopped. My throat tightened. "I hope you're doing okay. I love you. I always will." I hung up before I could say anything else. I always hang up first. I can't stand the silence after. There are dozens of messages like that, maybe more. I stopped counting after 50. Birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, random Tuesdays when the loneliness got too heavy to carry. She's never answered a single one. At first, I thought she just needed time, that she was angry, hurt, confused, that one day she would calm down and call me back. But years passed, and the silence stayed. I even tried writing letters, real ones, with paper and envelopes and stamps like we used to do when she was little, and insisted on mailing thank you notes to her teachers. I wrote everything I couldn't say out loud. I explained I apologized, even for things that weren't my fault. I never sent them. They're all in a drawer in my bedroom, tied together with a ribbon. Sometimes I think about mailing them all at once. Other times, I wonder if it's already too late. Maybe she wouldn't even open them. Maybe she'd just throw them away, like she threw me away. I know that sounds bitter. I don't mean it to. I try not to think like that. I try to remember that she was just a child when everything happened. That someone filled her head with things she didn't fully understand. Still, it hurts. It hurts in ways I don't even know how to describe. There are moments when I catch myself reaching for my phone, wanting to share something small. A recipe I tried, a movie I watched, a memory that surfaced out of nowhere. The kind of things mothers and daughters talk about without even thinking. And then I remember. There is no one on the other end. Sometimes I sit on the couch in the evenings and watch old home videos. I have them all transferred onto a USB drive now. Technology changed, but I made sure the memories didn't disappear with it. There's one video I watch more than the others. Lily is about 10. She's in the backyard trying to ride her bike without training wheels for the first time. I'm behind the camera cheering her on. "You've got it, baby, don't look down. Just keep going." She wobbles, panics, and then she rides. For a few seconds, she rides all on her own, and she's laughing. That bright, unstoppable laugh that used to fill the entire house. "I'm doing it, Mom. I'm doing it." I remember dropping the camera and running after her, both of us laughing, both of us so proud. That was before she started looking at me like I was a stranger. Before she started believing things about me that weren't true. Before I became the villain in her story. I often wonder what she tells people about me now. Does she say I abandoned her? That I broke her family? That I was the reason her father disappeared? Because that's what she used to believe. That's what she was told. And I let her believe it. Not because it was true, but because the truth would have been so much worse. That's the part no one understands. The silence between us isn't just anger. It's built on something deeper, something dangerous. A secret that I carried for years thinking I was protecting her. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe by staying quiet, I didn't protect her at all. Maybe I just gave the lie more time to grow. Last week, everything changed. I was in the kitchen washing dishes when my phone buzzed on the counter. For a second, I didn't even look. I've trained myself not to expect anything anymore. But something made me turn. Unknown number. My first instinct was to ignore it. Most unknown calls these days are robocalls or scams. But then something inside me tightened. I dried my hands slowly and picked up the phone. "Hello?" There was a pause on the other end. Then a man's voice, steady and official. "Is this Noah Carter?" My heart skipped. "Yes, who is this?" "This is Detective Harris from the Columbus Police Department. We need to speak with you regarding a case that was previously closed." The room seemed to tilt slightly. A case. I already knew which one. I hadn't heard anyone say those words in years. I understand," I said quietly. "What is this about?" Another pause. And then he said something that made my entire world stop. "We've also been in contact with your daughter, Lily Carter." The glass slipped from my hand and shattered in the sink. For 8 years, she hadn't answered my calls. But the police, they reached her. And whatever they told her, it was something I never could. Before everything fell apart, before the silence, before Lily looked at me like I was someone she didn't recognize, we were a normal family. At least, that's what I used to believe. Daniel Carter was the kind of man people trusted instantly. He had that easy smile, the kind that made strangers feel like they'd known him for years. He worked in finance, something about investments and consulting, and he was good at it. Or at least that's what he always said. Back then, I didn't question it. We lived in a modest but comfortable house not far from where I still live now. Lily had her own room painted pale yellow because she once said it reminded her of sunshine. Daniel would come home in the evenings, loosen his tie, and scoop her up into his arms like she weighed nothing at all. Who's my favorite girl, he'd ask, spinning her around until she laughed so hard she could barely breathe. I am, she'd shout. And who's my second favorite, he'd tease, glancing at me. That's Mom, she'd say, grinning. We used to laugh about that. It felt real. It felt safe. Lily adored him. She followed him everywhere when he was home, asking questions about his work, his day, the world. He would kneel down, look her in the eyes, and answer every question like it mattered. Looking back now, I wonder how much of that was real. The first time I noticed something was off, it was small. So small I almost ignored it. Daniel started coming home later. At first, it was once or twice a week. Long day, he'd say, dropping his keys on the counter. Big client. You know how it is. I nodded. I didn't want to be the kind of wife who questioned everything. But then it became more frequent. Some nights, he wouldn't come home until after Lily was already asleep. She would wait up for him at the kitchen table, drawing pictures or doing homework, her eyes drooping as the hours passed. Should we go to bed, sweetheart? I'd ask gently. No, she'd say, shaking her head. Dad said he'd be home tonight, and I didn't have the heart to tell her I wasn't so sure anymore. Eventually, she would fall asleep with her head resting on her arms, and I'd carry her to bed, whispering promises I wasn't certain I could keep. He'll be home soon, I promise, but sometimes he wasn't. There were other things, too. Phone calls he would take outside, messages he would read and quickly delete. A second phone I found once tucked in the glove compartment of his car. When I asked him about it, he didn't hesitate. Work phone? He said casually. Some clients prefer to keep things separate. It sounded reasonable. Everything he said always sounded reasonable. That was his gift. That was how he kept everything from unraveling. Until it did. I remember one night in particular. Lily was about 12 at the time, old enough to notice things, old enough to start asking questions. Daniel came home late again. It was nearly midnight. I was sitting in the living room, the lights dim, pretending to read a book I hadn't turned a page of in over an hour. You're still up? He asked, surprised. I was waiting, I said quietly. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Noah, I told you, work has been crazy lately. Every night I asked. Every single night, he didn't answer right away. That was the moment something inside me shifted. You're hiding something. I said, my voice barely above a whisper. His eyes flickered just for a second. Then he smiled. And just like that, the doubt almost disappeared. You're imagining things, he said, stepping closer, placing his hands on my shoulders. I'm doing this for us, for Lily. Everything I do is for this family. I wanted to believe him, so I did. That's the thing about love. It makes you ignore the cracks until the whole thing collapses. A few weeks later, Lily came to me with a question that made my stomach drop. Mom, is Dad in trouble? I froze. What do you mean? I asked carefully. She hesitated, fidgeting with the sleeve of her shirt. I heard him talking on the phone. He sounded different, like he was scared. Daniel scared. That didn't make sense. He's probably just stressed, I said quickly. Work can be overwhelming sometimes. She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. Neither was I. That night, after Lily went to bed, I stayed up again. This time, not waiting, watching. When Daniel came home, I didn't greet him. I didn't ask how his day was. I just said, we need to talk. He stopped in the doorway, his expression tightening. About what? About whatever is going on that you're not telling me. The silence stretched between us. For the first time in our marriage, he didn't have an answer ready. And that terrified me more than anything. I told you, he said, finally his voice colder now. It's work. No, I said, shaking my head. It's not just work. I found the second phone. I see the way you act. And Lily, she's starting to notice too. At the mention of her name, something changed in his face. Not anger, not guilt. Something else. Something darker. "You need to stop asking questions," he said quietly. The words sent a chill down my spine. "Daniel, I mean it, Noah." His voice was firm now. "You don't understand what you're getting into." I stared at him, my heart pounding. "What does that mean?" I asked. But he didn't answer. He just walked past me up the stairs and into our bedroom, closing the door behind him. That was the moment I knew. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than I thought, and it was already too late to pretend everything was fine. Over the next few days, the tension in the house became unbearable. Lily grew quieter. She spent more time in her room, headphones on, avoiding both of us. Daniel became even more distant. He left earlier, came home later, and barely spoke unless he had to. And me, I started watching everything, listening, waiting, because deep down, I felt it. Something was coming, something that would change everything. I just didn't know how much it would cost us. If I had known, if I had understood what Daniel was really involved in, maybe I would have done things differently. Maybe Lily wouldn't have grown up believing I was the one who destroyed our family. But back then, all I had were pieces, fragments of a truth I wasn't ready to face, and a husband who was slowly becoming a stranger. The first time Lily said it, I thought I had misheard her. "You ruined everything." She was standing in the doorway of the kitchen, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her face pale but determined. She couldn't have been more than 15 at the time, but in that moment, she looked older, harder somehow. "What did you say?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "You heard me," she replied. "You ruined our family." The words didn't just hurt. They stunned me. I stood there frozen, trying to understand how we had gotten to this point. How my little girl, the one who used to cling to my hand in crowded places, could now look at me with so much anger. "Lily, that's not true," I said gently, taking a step toward her. She stepped back immediately. "Don't," she snapped. "Just don't pretend like you don't know what I'm talking about." My heart started to race. "What do you think happened?" I asked carefully. Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't soften her expression. If anything, they made it sharper. "Dad didn't just disappear," she said. "People don't just vanish like that. Something happened. And it's because of you." I felt like the ground had dropped out from under me. "Who told you that?" I asked, my voice trembling now. She hesitated for just a second. That was all I needed to know. "Was it your grandmother?" I asked quietly. Her silence was answer enough. "Patricia Carter. Of course, she's been lying to you," I said more firmly this time. "You don't know the whole story." "Then tell me," Lily shouted suddenly, her voice cracking. "Tell me what really happened." I opened my mouth, and then I stopped. Because I couldn't, not without destroying everything she still believed about her father. Not without forcing her to see him for who he really was. And I wasn't ready to do that to her. "I can't," I said, finally, my voice barely above a whisper. Her face changed instantly. Any doubt she might have had disappeared. "Of course you can't," she said bitterly, "because there's nothing to tell. You just don't want to admit it." "Lily, please, I heard what Grandma said," she interrupted. "I know you and Dad were fighting. I know things weren't good between you. That's normal," I said quickly. "Couples argue. That doesn't mean—" "She said you were jealous." Lily continued, ignoring me. "That you couldn't stand that he was successful. That you were always trying to control him." That's not true, I said, shaking my head. She's twisting things. And then he disappeared. Lily said, her voice dropping lower now, more dangerous. Right after another one of your fights. The room felt like it was closing in around me. That doesn't mean I had anything to do with it, I said. Then why won't you explain it? She demanded. Why won't you tell me what really happened? Because the truth would break you. Because the truth would make you hate him instead of me. Because the truth was too ugly for a 15-year-old girl to carry. But I couldn't say any of that. I'm trying to protect you, I said instead. She laughed, actually laughed, a cold, disbelieving sound that didn't belong to the girl I knew. Protect me, she repeated. From what, the truth? Yes, I said softly. That was my mistake. Her expression hardened completely. I don't need your protection, she said. I need the truth. And if you won't give it to me, then I already know why. My chest tightened. Lily, you're hiding something, she said. And whatever it is, it's bad enough that you'd rather I hate you than tell me. I flinched, because she was right. Just not in the way she thought. I'm still your mother, I said, my voice breaking. I would never hurt you. She stared at me for a long moment. And then she said something I will never forget. You already did. Those 3 words, they stayed with me. They echoed in my mind long after she stormed out of the kitchen, slamming her bedroom door so hard the walls seemed to shake. That was the beginning of the end. After that day, everything changed. Lily stopped talking to me unless she absolutely had to. Even then, her answers were short, cold, distant. She spent more and more time away from home, at friends' houses, at school, anywhere but near me. And when she was home, it felt like I was living with a stranger. She started visiting Patricia more often, too. I knew what was happening. Every visit was another piece of poison being fed to her. Another story. Another version of events that painted me as the villain. I tried to intervene once. I drove to Patricia's house unannounced, my hands shaking as I knocked on the door. When she opened it, she looked surprised but not worried. Hello, Noah, she said coolly. To what do I owe the pleasure? I need to talk to you, I said. She stepped aside just enough to let me see inside. Lily was sitting on the couch. She looked up when she saw me, and her expression immediately darkened. I told you not to come here, she said. That hurt more than anything Patricia could have said. I just want to talk, I said, stepping inside despite the tension in the room. There's nothing to talk about, Lily replied. There is, I insisted. You're being told things that aren't true, and I need you to hear it from me. Oh, I've heard enough from you, she snapped. Patricia watched the exchange quietly, her lips curved in the faintest hint of a smile. That was when I realized she wanted this. She wanted Lily to turn against me. Why are you doing this? I asked Patricia, my voice shaking with anger. She raised an eyebrow. Doing what you're lying to her, I said. You're turning her against me. I'm telling her what she deserves to know. Patricia replied calmly. Something you've clearly failed to do. You don't know the whole story, I said. And neither does she. Patricia shot back. Whose fault is that I had no answer? Because once again she was right. Lily stood up suddenly. I don't want to hear this, she said. Not from either of you. Sweetheart, I began. Stop calling me that, she said sharply. You don't get to act like everything's normal. My throat tightened. I'm trying to fix this, I said. No, she said. You're trying to control it, just like you always did. That's not fair. Neither is lying to me, she interrupted. I'm not lying, I said desperately. I'm just not telling you everything. She stared at me, disbelief written all over her face. "That's the same thing," she said. And maybe she was right. That was the day I realized I was losing her. Not all at once, but slowly, piece by piece. And no matter what I said, no matter what I did, I couldn't stop it. Because the one thing that could have changed everything was the one thing I refused to tell. The night Lily left, I knew something was different the moment I walked through the door. It wasn't loud. There was no shouting, no slammed doors, just silence. But not the kind I had grown used to. This one felt heavier. Final. "Lily!" I called out, setting my keys down on the kitchen counter. "I'm home." No answer. My chest tightened. I moved through the house slowly, noticing the little things first. Her shoes were gone from the hallway. The light in her bedroom was off. The door was slightly open. I pushed it gently, and that's when I saw it. Her room was empty. Not completely. The furniture was still there. The pale yellow walls still held the same faint marks from where posters used to hang. But all the things that made it hers, her clothes, her books, the small pieces of her life were gone. It looked like someone had erased her from the house. "No," I whispered. I stepped inside, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might break through my ribs. I opened the closet. Empty. I checked the drawers. Cleared out. Then I saw it. A single piece of paper on her bed. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. "Don't look for me." That was all it said. No mom. No explanation. No goodbye. Just those 4 words. I sank down onto the edge of the bed, the note trembling in my hands. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind refused to process what was happening. She was gone. Not just angry, not just distant. Gone. I grabbed my phone and called her immediately. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. "Lily, please," I said, my voice breaking. "Please pick up. I just got home and I stopped trying to steady myself. If this is some kind of misunderstanding, we can fix it. We can talk. Just call me back." "Okay, please." I hung up and called again, and again, and again. Each time it went straight to voicemail. Panic set in. I grabbed my purse and car keys, barely remembering to lock the door as I rushed outside. The night air was cold, but I didn't feel it. My mind was racing, trying to piece together where she could have gone. There was only one place that made sense: Patricia's house. I drove faster than I should have, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly they ached. Every red light felt like a personal attack. Every second felt like it was slipping away from me. When I finally pulled up to the house, I didn't even bother parking properly. I jumped out of the car and ran to the front door, knocking hard and ought to hurt my knuckles. Opened the door. When I finally pulled up to the house, I didn't even bother parking properly. I jumped out of the car and ran to the front door, knocking hard enough to hurt my knuckles. "Open the door," I shouted. A moment later, the porch light flicked on. The door opened slowly. And there she was. Lily. Standing behind Patricia. For a second, everything inside me stopped. "Lily?" I breathed. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, her face unreadable. "You can't just leave like that," I said, stepping forward. "You didn't even tell me where you were going." "I left you a note," she said flatly. "That's not enough," I said, my voice rising despite myself. "You're still a minor Lily. You can't just disappear in the middle of the night." "I'm not disappearing," she replied. "I'm staying here." The words hit me like a physical blow. No, I said immediately. No, you're not. You're coming home. I am home, she said. My chest tightened. Don't say that, I whispered. This is not your home. Patricia stepped forward, then placing a hand lightly on Lily's shoulder. She's exactly where she needs to be, she said calmly. I turned to her, anger rising like a fire in my chest. You don't get to decide that, I snapped. She's my daughter. And she's my granddaughter, Patricia replied coolly. And right now she feels safer here. Safer, I repeated, disbelief flooding my voice. From me, Lily didn't hesitate. Yes, the word cut deeper than anything she had said before. I looked at her, really looked at her, searching for something. Anything that reminded me of the little girl who used to run into my arms. But all I saw was distance. You think I would hurt you? I asked softly. She swallowed her expression, faltering for just a moment. I don't know what you're capable of, she said. That was it. That was the moment everything inside me broke. Lily, I said, my voice trembling. I have never done anything to hurt you. Everything I've done, everything I didn't say, it was to protect you. Stop saying that, she snapped. You don't get to hide behind that anymore. I'm not hiding, I said desperately. I'm trying to keep you from something you don't understand. Then make me understand, she shouted. Tell me the truth. I opened my mouth, and once again, nothing came out. Because the truth was still sitting there, heavy and dangerous, waiting to destroy what little she had left of her father. I can't, I said. Her face went cold. Then don't expect me to stay, she replied. I'm your mother, I said, my voice cracking. You belong with me. I don't belong to anyone, she said, and I'm not going back there. The finality in her voice left no room for argument. I turned to Patricia, my last shred of hope. Please, I said, don't do this. She needs her mother. Patricia's expression didn't change. She needs the truth, she said, something you've clearly decided she doesn't deserve. I felt the weight of those words settle over me, because deep down I knew she was right, just not in the way she meant. I looked back at Lily one last time. Are you sure this is what you want? I asked quietly. She didn't hesitate. Yes, I nodded slowly, even though it felt like my entire world was collapsing. Then I won't force you, I said. Her eyes flickered, surprised. But I'm not giving up on you, I added. Not now, not ever. I nodded slowly, even though it felt like my entire world was collapsing. Then I won't force you, I said. Her eyes flickered, surprised. But I'm not giving up on you, I added. Not now, not ever. She didn't respond. She just stepped back, and the door closed between us. I stood there for a long time after that, staring at the empty space where she had been, listening to the silence. When I finally got back into my car, I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to hold myself together. That was the last night I saw my daughter for 8 years. The last time I heard her voice in person. The last time I had a chance to tell her the truth, and I let it slip away. For years, I told myself I had done the right thing, that keeping the truth from Lily was an act of love, that one day, when she was older, when she was stronger, I would finally tell her everything and she would understand. But the truth is, there is no right time to destroy someone's image of the person they love most. And Daniel was everything to her. Even now, After everything, I can still see the way she looked at him, like he was the safest place in the world. Like nothing bad could ever touch her as long as he was there. That was the version of him she carried with her when she walked out of my life. Not the man I came to know in the end, not the man I saw that night. I didn't always know the truth about Daniel. For a long time, I believed the same story everyone else did. That he was hardworking, successful, a little secretive maybe, but nothing more than that. The kind of man who kept stress to himself so he wouldn't burden his family. But there were cracks. Small ones at first. The second phone, the late nights, the way his tone would change when he thought no one was listening. And then there was the night everything shifted. It was about a week before he disappeared. Lily had gone to a friend's house for a sleepover. It was just Daniel and me at home. I remember feeling relieved, thinking maybe we could finally talk, really talk, without worrying about what Lily might overhear. But he came home late again, later than usual. It was almost 2 a.m. I was still awake, sitting in the dark living room, the only light coming from the television I wasn't really watching. When I heard the front door open, my heart started pounding. This was it, I told myself. No more pretending, no more excuses. He stepped inside quietly, closing the door behind him as if he didn't want to wake anyone, even though he knew Lily wasn't home. When he saw me sitting there, he froze. "You're still up?" he asked. The same question, the same tone, but something about it felt off. "I've been waiting," I said. He sighed, rubbing his face. "Noah, not tonight." "Yes, tonight," I said firmly. "We've been avoiding this for too long." He didn't respond. He just walked past me toward the kitchen, like I hadn't said anything at all. That was when I stood up. "Daniel!" I said louder now. He stopped, slowly turned around, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw fear in his eyes. Not annoyance, not frustration. Fear. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice softening despite myself. "You're scaring me." He stared at me for a long moment, like he was trying to decide something. Then he shook his head. "You don't need to know," he said. "Yes, I do," I replied. "I'm your wife. That's exactly why you don't need to know," he said quietly. The words sent a chill down my spine. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," he said slowly, choosing his words carefully, "that the less you know, the safer you are." My heart dropped. Safer from what? He didn't answer. Instead, he walked to the sink and turned on the water, rinsing his hands like the conversation was over. But I wasn't done. I followed him. "Daniel, look at me," I said. He didn't. "Look at me," I repeated. Reluctantly, he turned, and that's when I saw it, a dark stain on the sleeve of his shirt. My breath caught. "Is that blood?" I whispered. His eyes flickered down for just a second, then back up at me. "It's nothing," he said. "Nothing," I repeated, my voice rising. "You come home at 2 a.m. with blood on your clothes, and you expect me to believe it's nothing." "It's not what you think," he said quickly. "Then tell me what it is," I demanded. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing now, agitated. "I can't," he said. "Why not?" I pressed. "Because once you know, you can't unknow it." The room felt like it was spinning. "What have you done?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He stopped pacing, looked at me, and for a moment I thought he might finally tell me. But instead, he said something else. "Whatever you think of me after this, just remember one thing he said. I never wanted you or Lily to be involved. My stomach dropped. Involved in what I asked, but he didn't answer. Not directly. I need you to trust me, he said instead. Just for a little while longer. Trust you, I repeated incredulous. How can I trust? I repeated incredulous. How can I trust you when you won't even tell me what's going on? Because I'm trying to protect you, he said. The same words I would later say to Lily. The same mistake. I don't want protection, I said. I want the truth. He looked at me then knew, when you won't even tell me what's going on. Because I'm trying to protect you, he said. The same words I would later say to Lily. The same mistake. I don't want protection, I said. I want the truth. He looked at me, then really looked at me, and something in his expression shifted, like he had made a decision. Be careful what you wish for, he said. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment in my head. The blood, the fear in his eyes, the way he said involved. I knew deep down that whatever Daniel was part of it wasn't just work. It wasn't stress. It was something else, something dangerous. And for the first time, I was afraid of my own husband. The next morning, I did something I had never done before. I went through his things. I told myself I had no choice, that I needed to know, that Lily needed me to know. I started with his desk. At first, everything looked normal. Papers, files, bills. But then, I found it. A folder. Hidden beneath a stack of documents. Inside were things I didn't understand at first. Bank statements with unfamiliar accounts. Names I didn't recognize. Large amounts of money moving in ways that didn't make sense. And then, a list. Names. Dates. Numbers. My hands started shaking as I flipped through the pages. This wasn't just business. This was something else entirely. Something illegal. Something criminal. I remember sitting there staring at those papers, feeling like the man I had built my life with had just disappeared, replaced by someone I didn't know. That was the moment I realized the truth. Daniel Carter wasn't the man Lily thought he was. And if she ever found out, it wouldn't just break her heart. It would shatter her. So I made a choice. A terrible, impossible choice. I decided I would carry that truth alone, even if it meant losing her. The night Daniel disappeared, it didn't feel like a tragedy at first. It felt like something had been building for a long time and finally broke. I remember every detail of that night with a kind of clarity that almost hurts. Some memories fade over time. This one never did. It was raining, not a heavy storm, just a steady cold drizzle that tapped softly against the windows. The kind of rain that makes everything feel quieter, more isolated. Lily was home that night. She had been in her room most of the evening, headphones on, avoiding both of us, like she had learned to do so well. Daniel hadn't come home yet, and I had stopped pretending to wait up for him. But I wasn't asleep. I was sitting at the kitchen table staring at the folder I had hidden earlier that day. The one with the bank statements, the names, the numbers that didn't make sense. Proof. Proof that my husband was not who I thought he was. I hadn't decided what to do with it yet. Call the police? Confront him again. Pretend I never saw it. None of the options felt right. None of them felt safe. The clock read 11:47 p.m. when I heard the front door open. I didn't move at first. I just listened. His footsteps were quicker than usual, uneven. like he was in a hurry. Then the door slammed shut. That got my attention. I stood up slowly, my heart already starting to pound. "Daniel," I called out. No answer. I stepped into the hallway, and that's when I saw him. He was standing near the door, breathing heavily, his hair damp from the rain, and his hands were shaking. "What happened?" I asked, my voice instinctively lowering. He looked up at me, and for the first time, he didn't even try to hide it. "I need you to listen to me," he said, his voice tight. "We don't have much time." A chill ran down my spine. "What are you talking about?" "They're coming," he said. "Who?" I asked, but I think I already knew. "The people I've been working with," he said, "or against. It's complicated." My heart dropped. "Daniel, what did you do?" I whispered. "I tried to get out," he said. "That's what I did. I tried to walk away." "And?" I asked. "And they don't let people walk away," he replied. The room felt like it was closing in. "Are we in danger?" I asked, my voice shaking now. He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "Yes," he said, finally. "But I'm not going to let anything happen to you or Lily. You should have thought about that before you got involved in whatever this is." I snapped, fear turning into anger. "You lied to us. I know," he cut in sharply. "And I'm trying to fix it." "How?" I demanded. He glanced toward the window like he was expecting someone to appear at any second. "I made a deal," he said. "With who?" "The authorities," he replied. "I gave them information. Names, accounts, everything." I stared at him. "You're cooperating?" I said slowly. "Yes," he said. "It's the only way out. Then why are you scared?" I asked. "Because they found out," he said. A loud noise echoed somewhere outside. Not thunder. Something else. Daniel froze. "They're here," he whispered. My heart jumped into my throat. "Daniel, listen to me," he said urgently, grabbing my shoulders. "Whatever happens, you have to protect Lily. Keep her away from all of this. Do you understand?" "What's going to happen?" I asked, panic rising. "I don't know," he admitted. "But it's not going to be good." Another noise, closer this time, a car door slamming. Voices. My entire body went cold. "You need to go," he said suddenly. "What?" I shook my head. "No, I'm not leaving." "Yes, you are," he said firmly. "Take Lily and get out of here." "I'm not running," I said. "This isn't about you," he snapped. "It's about her." At the sound of raised voices, Lily's bedroom door opened upstairs. "Mom," she called. My heart broke at the sound of her voice. She shouldn't have been part of this. She shouldn't have seen any of it. "Go to your room," I called back, trying to keep my voice steady. But it was too late. She was already coming down the stairs. "Dad, what's going on?" she asked, her eyes wide with confusion. Daniel's face softened for just a second when he saw her. "Hey, sweetheart," he said gently. "Everything's okay?" "No, it's not," I said under my breath. A loud bang hit the front door. All three of us flinched. "Open the door," a voice shouted from outside. My blood turned to ice. "Police," another voice called. Daniel's expression changed instantly. Relief. And something else. Resignation. "They're faster than I thought," he muttered. "Police," Lily repeated, looking between us. "Why are the police here?" I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to explain any of this without destroying everything in one moment. Daniel stepped toward the door. "No," I said, quickly grabbing his arm. "Don't open it." He looked at me, his eyes steady now. "It's over," he said. The banging continued. "Open the door now." Daniel gently pulled his arm free from my grip. "Take Lily upstairs," he said quietly. "Don't come down until I tell you." "I'm not leaving you," I said. "You have to," he insisted. "Please." Lily clutched my arm. "Mom, I'm scared," she whispered. That was enough. I nodded. "Okay," I said, even though every part of me was screaming not to let him out of my sight. I turned and led Lily up the stairs, my heart pounding with every step. But halfway up, we heard it. A crash. The sound of the door being forced open. Shouting. Heavy footsteps. "Police! Don't move!" Lily gasped. I pulled her closer, trying to shield her from the noise, from the reality of what was happening. But then, another sound. A struggle. Something falling. And then, silence. Complete, terrifying silence. I froze. "Stay here," I whispered to Lily, but she grabbed my hand. "Don't leave me," she said. I hesitated, just for a second, and then I made a decision. I walked back down the stairs, slowly, carefully. Each step felt like walking towards something I couldn't come back from. When I reached the bottom, the house looked different, like it had been turned upside down in seconds. The front door was open, rain blowing in, police officers everywhere, and in the middle of it all, blood on the floor, on the walls. But no Daniel. I stared at the scene, my mind refusing to make sense of it. "Where is he?" I asked, my voice barely audible. No one answered. One of the officers stepped toward me. "Ma'am, we need you to step outside," he said. "Where is my husband?" I repeated. His expression tightened. "We'll explain everything," he said. But they didn't. Not that night. Not the next day. Not ever. Not completely. Because Daniel Carter vanished. No body. No answers. Just blood. And a story that no one could fully explain. Except me. And the truth I chose to keep buried. The truth didn't disappear the night Daniel vanished. It just changed shape. And the version that survived wasn't mine. In the days that followed, everything moved too fast, and yet somehow not fast enough. Police came and went, asking questions they already seemed to have answers for. They searched the house, took evidence, photographed every inch of the place like it had become a crime scene instead of a home, because that's exactly what it was. A crime scene. But no one could tell me what crime had actually been committed. "Was there a body?" I asked one of the detectives on the second day. "No," he said. "Was anyone arrested?" "Not at this time." "Then what happened?" I pressed. He hesitated, and then gave me the answer I would hear over and over again. "We're still investigating." That phrase became a wall. One I couldn't get through. But someone else had already decided what happened. Patricia. She didn't wait for answers. She created her own. And worse, she made Lily believe it. I didn't realize how quickly things had escalated until I tried to call Lily the morning after that night. Straight to voicemail. I tried again that afternoon. Voicemail. By evening, I drove to Patricia's house again, praying that things would be different this time. That Lily would see what had happened and come home, that she would need me. But when Patricia opened the door, I knew immediately something had changed. "She's not seeing you," she said before I could even speak. My stomach dropped. "I need to talk to her," I said firmly. "After what happened last night, she needs her mother." Patricia's lips pressed into a thin line. "She needs stability," she said. "Something you clearly can't provide right now." "That's not your decision to make," I snapped. "Move aside." I stepped forward, but she didn't move. Instead, she raised her voice slightly. "Lily!" My heart jumped. A few seconds later, Lily appeared at the top of the stairs, and the moment she saw me, her face hardened. "Tell her to leave," she said. I felt the words like a physical blow. "Lily, please," I said, my voice cracking. "Just let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," she said coldly. "I know what happened." My breath caught. "You don't," I said. "You really don't." "I know enough," she replied. "The police came. They asked questions about you, about your fights with Dad. That doesn't mean—" and Grandma told me the rest, she added. "Of course she did." "What exactly did she tell you?" I asked carefully. Lily hesitated for a second. Then she said it. "She said you were the last person to see him alive." My heart stopped. "That's not," she said. "You had a motive," Lily continued, her voice shaking now. "Not with uncertainty, but with emotion. That you were angry, that you felt trapped, that you wanted him gone." "That's a lie," I said, my voice firm despite the panic rising inside me. "You know me, Lily. You know I would never—" "Do I?" she interrupted. Silence filled the space between us, because for the first time, she wasn't sure, and that was all Patricia needed. "You don't know everything about her," Patricia said quietly from beside me. "There are things your mother has been hiding for a long time." I turned to her, fury burning in my chest. "You need to stop," I said. "You have no idea what you're doing to her." "I'm telling her the truth," she replied calmly. "No," I said. "You're telling her your version of the truth." "And what's yours?" she shot back. "Because from where I'm standing, you haven't told her anything." I opened my mouth, and once again, nothing came out, because the truth was still there, heavy, dangerous, waiting to destroy everything. And I still couldn't say it. Lily shook her head slowly. "See," she said, "you can't even defend yourself." "I can," I said desperately. You just what she demanded." I looked at her, really looked at her, at the fear in her eyes, at the confusion, at the pain. And I knew if I told her everything right now, it wouldn't fix anything. It would just replace one kind of heartbreak with another. "I just don't want to hurt you," I said softly. She laughed again, that same cold, disbelieving laugh. "You think this isn't hurting me?" she said. "My dad is gone. The police are asking questions, and you won't even tell me what happened." "I'm trying to protect you," I said. "Stop saying that," she shouted. "I don't need protection. I need the truth." Her voice echoed through the house, and for a moment, everything went still. Then she said the words that sealed it. "If you won't tell me then, I'll believe the only person who will." My chest tightened. "Lily, I'm staying here," she said. "With Grandma." "Just for now?" I asked, clinging to the smallest piece of hope. She didn't hesitate. No, the word felt final, permanent. I looked at Patricia. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. She had already won. "I'm not giving up on you," I said quietly, my voice breaking despite my effort to stay strong. Lily didn't respond. She just turned and walked away. The door closed in my face minutes later. And this time, it felt different. Not like a fight. Not like something temporary. This felt like the beginning of something much worse. Because now, it wasn't just silence between us. It was belief. She believed I was capable of something I had never done. And I had no way to prove otherwise. Because the one thing that could have cleared everything up was the one thing I still refused to say. That Daniel wasn't the victim she thought he was, that he had enemies, dangerous ones, and that the night he disappeared wasn't about me. But by the time I realized that silence was no longer protecting her, it was already too late. The investigation didn't begin with an accusation. It began with a tone, a shift in the way people spoke to me, the way the police officers stopped calling me Mrs. Carter and started saying ma'am in a more careful, distant way. The way their questions became sharper, more precise, like they were no longer trying to understand what happened. They were trying to confirm something. And slowly, painfully, I realized what that something was. Me. I became the center of their attention. At first, it was subtle. A few follow-up questions. Requests to clarify timelines. "Can you walk us through your evening again? Mrs. Carter, did anyone else see you after 10 p.m.? Have you and your husband ever had physical altercations?" That last question stayed with me. "Of course not," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The detective nodded, jotting something down in his notebook. But I could see it in his eyes. He didn't fully believe me. And that's when fear started to creep in. Not the kind I felt the night Daniel disappeared. This was different, colder, more personal. Because this time, the danger wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from the story being built around me, a story I had no control over. It didn't take long for that story to spread. Neighbors started avoiding me. People I had known for years suddenly found reasons to look the other way when I passed by. Conversations would stop when I entered a room. Doors that used to be open quietly closed. I became something else overnight. Not a victim, not a worried wife, but a possibility, a suspect. And the worst part, I couldn't even defend myself properly, because the truth, the real truth, was still locked inside me. One afternoon, about a week after Daniel disappeared, 2 detectives came back to the house. This time, they didn't ask to come in. They simply stepped inside. Confident, purposeful. "We need to ask you a few more questions," one of them said. I nodded slowly. Of course, but something in my chest tightened. This felt different. We sat in the living room, the same room where I had waited for Daniel so many nights. The same room where everything had started to unravel. "Mrs. Carter," the older detective began, "we've been reviewing financial records tied to your husband." My stomach dropped. Here it was, the truth, or at least part of it. What kind of records, I asked, though I already knew. "Accounts that don't match his reported income," he said. "Large transfers, unusual patterns." I swallowed. "And what does that have to do with me?" He leaned forward slightly. "That's what we're trying to figure out." My pulse quickened. I didn't know about any of that. I said carefully. That part was true, at least for most of our marriage. But you discovered something recently, didn't you? The younger detective asked. I froze. How would you know that? I asked. They exchanged a glance. We found signs that someone had gone through his documents shortly before his disappearance, the older one said. Drawers opened, files disturbed. I felt my hands start to shake. I was trying to understand what was going on, I admitted. He was acting strange. I had a right to know. Of course you did, he said. But again, that tone, polite, careful, suspicious. And what did you find? He asked. I hesitated. This was the moment I could tell them everything about the accounts, the names, the list, the truth that Daniel wasn't just some missing husband, but a man caught in something much darker. But then I saw Lily's face in my mind, the way she looked at her father, the way she still believed in him. If I said it out loud, if I made it real, there would be no going back. I didn't understand most of it, I said finally, which wasn't entirely a lie. But you saw enough to know it wasn't normal, the younger detective pressed. Yes, I admitted. And you confronted him about it? Yes. What happened? I took a breath. He told me he was trying to get out of something I said slowly, that he had made a deal with authorities. The detectives exchanged another look, this time sharper. What kind of deal? The older one asked. He didn't say, I replied. He just said they wouldn't let him walk away. Silence filled the room. For a moment I thought maybe this would change things. Maybe this would shift their focus away from me, toward the real danger. But instead, the older detective leaned back slightly, and yet he said, You didn't report any of this. My heart sank. I didn't know what to report, I said. I didn't have proof of anything. You had enough to be concerned, he replied. I said. That's why I confronted him. And that confrontation, the younger detective added, got heated, didn't it? I felt my chest tighten. We argued, I admitted. Yes. How heated? He asked. Voices raised. I said. Nothing more. No physical contact, he pressed. No, I said firmly. But I could see it. The way they looked at each other. The way they were building something, piece by piece. And you were the last person to see him alive, the older detective said quietly. There it was, not a question, a statement. I didn't do anything to him, I said, my voice breaking, despite my effort to stay calm. We're not saying you did, he replied, but his eyes said something else. They stayed for another hour, asking, probing, circling the same points again and again, like they were waiting for me to slip, for me to say something that didn't fit, something they could use. When they finally left, the house felt emptier than ever. And for the first time, I understood something terrifying. This wasn't just about finding Daniel anymore. This was about assigning blame, and I was the easiest answer. A wife, a troubled marriage, a missing husband. It was a story people understood, a story they were ready to believe. Even Lily, especially Lily. I sat alone in the living room that night, staring at the same spot where the blood had once been, and I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit before. If I didn't tell the truth soon, the version of events everyone else was creating would become the only truth that mattered. And by the time Lily heard anything different, it would already be too late. Losing Daniel was one thing. Losing Lily was something else entirely. Because grief at least gives you something to hold on to. A memory. A version of the past that still feels real, even if it hurts. But what I lost with Lily wasn't just her presence. It was her belief in me. And once that was gone, everything else followed. The calls stopped first. At the beginning, I still tried. Every few days, I would dial her number, hoping, just hoping, that maybe this time she would answer. She never did. Eventually, the calls went straight to voicemail without even ringing. Then the messages started coming back undelivered. She had blocked me. I remember staring at my phone the first time it happened, reading the notification over and over again, like maybe it would change. It didn't. That was when the silence became permanent. But the outside world didn't stay silent. If anything, it got louder. The investigation didn't charge me with anything. There wasn't enough evidence for that, but it didn't clear me either. And in the absence of answers, people filled in the gaps themselves. The whispers started small. At the grocery store, at church, neighbors talking just a little too quietly when I walked by. She was the last one who saw him. They were always fighting. I heard the police questioned her for hours. It didn't take long for whispers to turn into something else. Assumptions, judgments, certainty. I became the woman whose husband disappeared. And not in a sympathetic way. In a suspicious one. I stopped going out as much after that, not because I was ashamed, but because I was tired. Tired of the looks. The questions people didn't ask out loud but made sure I could hear anyway. One afternoon, I went to the bank to sort out some financial issues Daniel had left behind. Accounts that had been frozen. Payments that had suddenly stopped. The woman behind the counter recognized my name immediately. I saw it in her eyes, that flicker of recognition, followed by something else. Something colder. "I'm here about my account," I said, trying to keep things normal. She nodded, typing something into her computer. "Mrs. Carter, there are some restrictions in place," she said carefully. "What kind of restrictions?" I asked. "Due to the ongoing investigation," she replied. "Certain assets have been flagged." My stomach dropped. "So I can't access my own money?" I asked. "Not all of it," she said. "Some funds are currently under review." "Review for what?" I demanded. She hesitated, then lowered her voice slightly. "For possible connection to illegal activity?" The words hit me like a slap. "That has nothing to do with me," I said sharply. "I understand," she said quickly, "but until the investigation is resolved, there's not much we can do." I stood there feeling like the ground beneath me was shifting again. First, my husband, then my daughter. Now, my stability. Everything Daniel had built, everything I thought was secure, was unraveling in ways I couldn't control. And I couldn't even explain why, because the explanation would only make things worse. I left the bank that day feeling smaller than I ever had in my life, like I had been reduced to a headline, a story people thought they understood, but didn't. The house felt emptier than ever when I got back. Not just quiet, hollow. I walked past Lily's room without opening the door. I couldn't. Not anymore. It felt like stepping into a memory I didn't have the strength to face. Instead, I sat in the living room, the same place where everything had begun to fall apart. And for the first time since that night, I let myself cry. Not just a few tears, but everything. All the fear, all the anger, all the guilt. Because no matter how I tried to justify it, no matter how many times I told myself I was protecting her, the truth was simple. My silence had cost me my daughter. Maybe not completely, maybe not forever. But in that moment, it felt like forever. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. And slowly, people stopped asking questions. Not because they had answers, but because they had decided they didn't need them. The story was already written in their minds, and I was the villain. The only person who didn't accept that story was me, because I knew something they didn't. I knew Daniel hadn't just disappeared. I knew he had been involved in something dangerous, something that didn't just end that night, something that could still be out there, watching, waiting. And every time I thought about telling the truth, I saw Lily's face again, and I stopped. Because if I lost her completely, if she knew everything, there might be no coming back from that. So I stayed quiet and let the world believe what it wanted, even if it meant losing everything, even if it meant becoming someone I wasn't. Because as long as Lily was safe, so I stayed quiet and let the world believe what it wanted, even if it meant losing everything, even if it meant becoming someone I wasn't. Because as long as Lily was safe, as long as she was alive, I told myself it was worth it. But deep down, there was a voice I couldn't ignore anymore. A quiet, persistent question. What if my silence wasn't protecting her? Wasn't. Because as long as Lily was safe, as long as she was alive, I told myself it was worth it. But deep down, there was a voice I couldn't ignore anymore. A quiet, persistent question. What if my silence wasn't protecting her, but putting her in more danger? 8 years passed. 8 years of silence. 8 years of living in a version of the world where my daughter existed somewhere, but not with me. I learned how to survive in that space. You don't heal from something like that, not completely. You just adjust. You build a life around the emptiness. You stop expecting things to change, because hope becomes dangerous after a while. And then one morning, everything shifted. Not because of me, but because of the one thing I had been afraid of all along. The truth finally moved on its own. I remember the day clearly. It was a Tuesday, ordinary in every way. I had just finished my coffee and was about to leave for work when there was a knock at my door. Not loud, not urgent, but official. I knew that kind of knock. My heart skipped. For a moment, I stood frozen in the middle of the room, staring at the door like it might disappear if I didn't open it. Then I forced myself to move. When I opened it, 2 men stood on my porch. Older now than the officers I remembered from 8 years ago, but with the same look, measured, serious. "We'd like to speak with you, Mrs. Carter," one of them said. My stomach tightened. "It's been a long time," I replied carefully. "Yes," he said, "and that's exactly why we're here." I stepped aside and let them in. As they walked into the living room, I felt something shift inside me. A feeling I hadn't allowed myself in years. Not hope. Not yet. But something close to it. "We've reopened your husband's case," the other officer said once we were seated. My pulse quickened. "Why?" I asked. They exchanged a look. "New information," the first one said. My breath caught. "What kind of information?" The second officer leaned forward slightly. "We've been investigating a financial network tied to multiple disappearances over the past decade," he explained. "Your husband's name came up again. Of course it did, because it had never truly gone away." And I pressed. "And we believe your husband was not just involved," he said slowly. "We believe he was cooperating with federal authority. IES before he disappeared." I felt something in my chest loosen and tighten at the same time. "I told you that," I said quietly. "Years ago." "Yes," he nodded. "But at the time, we didn't have enough to confirm it. ease before he disappeared. I felt something in my chest loosen and tighten at the same time. I told you that, I said quietly. Years ago. Yes, he nodded. But at the time, we didn't have enough to confirm it. And now you do? I asked. He hesitated. We have enough to take a closer look, he said. That wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was more than I had before. And what does that mean for me? I asked. It means the first officer said that the narrative surrounding your involvement is being reconsidered. But it was more than I had before. And what does that mean for me? I asked. It means, the first officer said, that the narrative surrounding your involvement is being reconsidered. Reconsidered, not erased, not corrected, just reconsidered. Still, it was something, a crack in the story that had been built around me for years. And Lily, I asked before I could stop myself. The name hung in the air, heavy, unavoidable. The officers exchanged another glance. She's been contacted, the second one said. My heart stopped. What do you mean? She's an adult now, he explained. And given the new direction of the investigation, we felt it was important to inform her directly. A wave of emotion hit me so suddenly I had to grip the edge of the couch to steady myself. You told her, I whispered. We told her that her father may have been involved in criminal activity, he said carefully, and that he was likely cooperating with authorities at the time of his disappearance. The room felt like it was spinning, all those years, all that silence, and now. She knows. I said, my voice barely audible. She knows there's more to the story than she was told, he replied. More than she was told. More than I told her. The irony wasn't lost on me. How did she react? I asked. The officers hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. She was surprised, the first one said. Surprised. That wasn't the word I would have chosen. Shattered, confused, angry. Those felt closer. Did she ask about me? I pressed. Another pause. She had questions, he said. Not the same thing. Not even close. My chest tightened again. Is she in danger? I asked suddenly. Both men looked at me sharply. Why would you ask that? The second one said. Because I knew. Because I had always known. Because the thing Daniel had been involved in didn't just disappear when he did. Because if what you're saying is true, I said carefully, then the people he was involved with might still be out there. Silence. Real silence this time. The kind that confirms what no one wants to say out loud. We're looking into that, the first officer said. That wasn't reassuring. It never was. You should be careful, I said. All of you. He studied me for a moment. You knew more than you told us back then, he said. It wasn't a question. I didn't deny it. I knew enough to be afraid, I said quietly. And you didn't come forward, he added. I was trying to protect my daughter. I replied. The words felt different now. He nodded slowly. We may need you to come in, he said, to go over everything again. I exhaled. I will, I said. This time I'll tell you everything. And I meant it, because whatever damage had already been done, whatever distance existed between me and Lily, the truth was already reaching her. Without me. And if I didn't step forward now, I might lose her for good. Again. After they left, I sat in the same spot for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. 8 years. 8 years of silence, of being misunderstood, of carrying a truth no one wanted to hear. And now it was starting to surface. But not the way I imagined. Not gently. Not carefully. It was crashing into Lily's life all at once, without context, without me there to explain. And that terrified me more than anything, because I knew exactly how it would feel to have everything you believed about someone fall apart in an instant. I stood up slowly, my hands still trembling, and for the first time in 8 years, I reached for my phone. Not to call her, I knew better than that, but to do something I had avoided for far too long. I opened my contacts, scrolled down, and stopped at her name. Lily Carter, my daughter. I stared at it for a long time. Then with a deep breath, I typed a message. Not an explanation, not yet. Just something simple, something honest. I think you've heard something about your father today. If you're ready, I'm here. I never stopped being here. My finger hovered over the screen. Then I hit send, and for the first time in 8 years, I allowed myself to hope. Just a little. Lily didn't respond right away. I didn't expect her to. After 8 years of silence, one message, no matter how carefully written, wasn't going to undo everything. It wasn't going to rebuild trust, erase doubt, or soften the version of me she had been living with all this time. Still, I checked my phone more times that day than I wanted to admit. Nothing. No reply, no read receipt, just silence. The same silence I had learned to live with. But something had changed. Because now, for the first time in years, I knew she had heard something that didn't fit the story she believed. And once doubt enters, it doesn't leave easily. I wasn't there to see what happened next, but later, much later, I would piece it together from the fragments Lily shared with me. The moment everything began to shift for her. It started with a question. A simple one. Grandma, is it true? Patricia was in the kitchen making tea like she always did in the afternoons. Routine had always been her strength, her way of keeping control over everything around her, including Lily. What do you mean, sweetheart? Patricia asked without turning around. The police came by my apartment today, Lily said. That made Patricia pause. Just for a second. But Lily noticed. They said Dad was involved in something illegal. She continued. That he was working with authorities before he disappeared. Patricia slowly set the teacup down. That's not true, she said calmly. Too calmly. How do you know? Lily asked. Because I know your father, Patricia replied. He would never do something like that. Lily hesitated. That's what I thought too, she said. But they sounded pretty sure. Police officers are wrong all the time, Patricia said quickly. They make assumptions. They build cases around what's convenient. Lily frowned. That wasn't the answer she expected. And Mom, she asked carefully. They said she might not have been involved the way people thought. That was the moment everything shifted. Patricia turned around slowly, and for the first time, there was something in her expression Lily hadn't seen before. Not anger, not sadness, something sharper, something controlled. Your mother told them that, Patricia said. Lily blinked. What? She's been saying that for years, Patricia continued, trying to rewrite the story. That's not what they said, Lily replied. They're just repeating what she wants them to believe, Patricia snapped. The tone caught Lily off guard, because for years Patricia had been careful, measured, never pushing too hard, never revealing too much. But now, something was slipping. Why are you so sure she's lying? Lily asked. Patricia didn't answer right away, and that silence was louder than anything she could have said. Grandma Lily pressed. Patricia sighed, turning back to the counter. Because I was there, she said. Lily's heart skipped. What do you mean? I saw how things were between them, Patricia said. The fights, the tension, the way your mother looked at him toward the end. Lily felt something stir inside her, something uncomfortable. You told me they argued, she said slowly. But that doesn't mean you didn't see what I saw. Patricia cut in. And you didn't see what I saw either, Lily replied. That surprised both of them. Because for the first time, you told me they argued, she said slowly. But that doesn't mean you didn't see what I saw, Patricia cut in. And you didn't see what I saw either, Lily replied. That surprised both of them, because for the first time, Lily wasn't just listening, she was pushing back. What does that mean? Patricia asked carefully. Lily hesitated, then said something she had never said out loud before. Dad was different toward the end, she admitted. Distant, nervous, like something was wrong. Patricia stiffened. That's not unusual, she said quickly. He was under a lot of stress. Stress doesn't make someone act like they're afraid, Lily said. The words hung in the air, heavy, uncomfortable. Patricia didn't respond immediately, and that hesitation, that tiny crack in her certainty, was all Lily needed. Why didn't you ever tell me that? Lily asked. Because it wasn't important, Patricia said. It is now, Lily replied. Silence filled the kitchen. And for the first time, the version of events Lily had lived with for 8 years started to feel because it wasn't important, Patricia said. It is now, Lily replied. Silence filled the kitchen, and for the first time, the version of events Lily had lived with for 8 years started to feel incomplete. Not necessarily wrong, but not whole. Did you ever talk to Mom after that night? Lily asked suddenly. Patricia's expression tightened. No, she said. Why not? Because there was nothing to say, Patricia replied. That doesn't make sense, Lily said. If you thought I didn't say I thought anything, Patricia interrupted sharply. Lily stared at her, confused, because that wasn't what she had been told all those years. You said she was the last person to see him, Lily said. That's a fact, Patricia replied. You said she had a motive. I said it was possible, Patricia corrected. You said Lily stopped, because suddenly she wasn't sure anymore. Not about what had been said, not about what had been implied, and not about what she had chosen to believe. Why didn't she ever defend herself? Lily asked quietly. Patricia looked at her, long, carefully, because she couldn't, she said. Lily felt a chill run through her. Or, Patricia added slowly, because she didn't want to. The implication was clear. But this time, it didn't land the same way. Because now there was another possibility, one that hadn't existed before. What if her mother hadn't spoken because she was hiding something else? Not guilt, but truth. Dangerous truth. The kind that doesn't just hurt feelings, but changes everything. Lily stepped back slightly, her mind racing. For years, everything had felt certain, clear. Her father was the victim. Her mother was the question. But now the lines were blurring, and she didn't know where she stood anymore. I need to think, she said finally. About what? Patricia asked. About everything, Lily replied. She turned and walked out of the kitchen, her heart pounding in her chest, for the first time in 8 years. She wasn't sure who to believe, And for the first time, she thought about my message, not with anger, not with rejection, but with something else, something fragile, something new, doubt. And doubt is where the truth begins. I didn't sleep that night. After I sent the message, I placed my phone face down on the table like I was afraid it might burn me if I kept looking at it. But every few minutes, I turned it back over again. Still nothing. No reply. No sign that she had even read it. By midnight, I told myself it had been a mistake. Too soon, too little, or maybe too late. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the house, the same silence that had been my only companion for years. Except now, it felt different, unsettled, like something was shifting just beneath the surface. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Just once. Short. Sharp. Enough to pull me upright before I even realized I was moving. My heart was pounding as I grabbed it from the nightstand. Unknown number. For a second, I froze. Spam call, I told myself, or wrong number, or anything except what I wanted it to be. But something inside me already knew. My hands were shaking as I answered. Hello, silence. Not empty silence, breathing, soft, unsteady. My chest tightened. Lily, I whispered. Another pause, and then, hi. Her voice, older, quieter, but unmistakably hers. For a moment, I couldn't speak. 8 years. 8 years of silence broken by a single word. I didn't know if you'd answer, she said. I didn't know if you'd call, I replied, my voice barely holding together. We both fell silent again. Because what do you say after 8 years? Where do you even begin? I got your message, she said finally. I wasn't sure if you would, I admitted. I almost didn't read it, she said. I saw your name, and I just stared at it for a while. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. I understand, I said. Another pause. Then, the police came to see me, she said. There it was. The thing that changed everything. I know, I said softly. They said Dad wasn't who I thought he was, she continued. That he was involved in something illegal. That he was working with them. I swallowed. Yes. Is that true? She asked. The question hung in the air. Heavy. Fragile. Everything I had avoided saying for years was now right in front of me. Yes, I said. The word felt like it carried the weight of all those years. She didn't respond immediately, and I could hear it. The shift in her breathing. Faster. Unsteady. Like the ground beneath her was moving. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. There was no anger in her voice. Not yet, just confusion. And something worse. Hurt. Because you loved him, I said. And I didn't want to take that away from you. That wasn't your decision to make, she said quietly. I know, I replied. I know that now. Silence again, longer this time. I thought she began, then stopped. What did you think? I asked gently. I thought you did something, she admitted. I thought you hurt him, or drove him away, or... Her voice broke. I thought you destroyed our family. My chest tightened painfully. I know I said. Why didn't you defend yourself? She asked. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? Because I was afraid. Because I thought I was protecting you. Because I didn't realize silence could hurt more than truth. All of those answers felt too small for what it cost us. I was trying to protect you, I said again, but softer this time. Not from him, but from what he really was involved in. Was it that bad? She asked. Yes, I said. A pause. Are we still in danger? She whispered. The question sent a chill through me. I don't know, I admitted, but I think whatever he was involved in didn't end when he disappeared. I heard her inhale sharply. So everything I believe, she said slowly. Everything Grandma told me, I didn't interrupt. Because this part, she had to reach on her own. It doesn't all add up anymore. So everything I believed, she said slowly. Everything Grandma told me, I didn't interrupt. Because this part, she had to reach on her own. It doesn't all add up anymore, she finished. No, I said quietly. It doesn't. Another silence, but this one felt different. Not empty, not distant, thinking, processing. And then I went to see her today, Lily said. Your grandmother? I asked. Yes. How did that go? She let out a breath. She still thinks you're lying, she said. Or she wants me to believe you are. That doesn't surprise me, I replied. She said you were me, I replied. She said you were trying to rewrite the story, Lily continued. That you've been doing it for years. I closed my eyes. I've been trying to tell the truth, I said. Just not all of it. Trying to rewrite the story, Lily continued. That you've been doing it for years. I closed my eyes. I've been trying to tell the truth, I said. Just not all of it. Why, she asked again. This time, I didn't hesitate. Because I was afraid you would hate him, I said. And now, she asked. Now I'm afraid you'll hate me, I admitted. The words hung there, raw, honest. And for the first time, I wasn't hiding anything. There was a long pause. So long I thought the call might have dropped. I don't know what I feel, she said finally. That's okay, I said. You don't have to figure it out right now. I don't understand anything anymore, she said. I do, I replied softly. I've been living with that feeling for a long time. Another silence. Then, I want to see you, she said. My heart stopped. What, I whispered. I'm not promising anything, she added quickly. I need to hear everything. From you. Not from the police. Not from Grandma. Tears blurred my vision. Okay, I said. Whenever you're ready. She hesitated. Tomorrow, she said. If that's okay. Yes, I said immediately. Of course it's okay. Another pause. Shorter this time. Less heavy. I don't know what happens after this, she said. Neither do I admitted. But I think, she continued, her voice softer now. I think I've been wrong about some things. My throat tightened. You weren't wrong to feel hurt, I said. You were just missing part of the story. Then tell me the rest tomorrow, she said. I will, I promised. And for the first time in 8 years, that promise felt like something I could finally keep. Good night, Mom, she said. The word hit me harder than anything else. Mom. She hadn't called me that in years. Good night, Lily, I whispered. The call ended, and I sat there, holding the phone in my hand, listening to the silence that followed. But this time, It didn't feel empty. It felt like something had finally begun. I arrived 20 minutes early. I told myself it was because of traffic, because I didn't want to be late, because I needed time to think. But the truth was simpler than that. I was afraid that if I didn't get there first, I might lose the courage to come at all. The cafe was small, quiet, tucked into a corner of a street I hadn't visited in years. The kind of place people went to be alone with their thoughts. It felt fitting. I chose a table near the window, my back straight, my hands wrapped around a cup of coffee I hadn't touched. Every time the door opened, my heart jumped. Every time, it wasn't her. Until it was. I saw her before she saw me, standing just inside the doorway, scanning the room, her posture tense, like she was ready to leave at any second. Lily, 8 years older, 8 years different. But still, standing just inside the doorway, scanning the room, her posture tense, like she was ready to leave at any second. Lily, 8 years older, 8 years different, but still my daughter. For a moment, I couldn't move. I just stared at her, trying to reconcile the woman standing there with the girl I remembered. And then her eyes found mine. Everything inside me stopped. Neither of us smiled. Neither of us spoke. She walked toward me slowly, like each step took effort, like she wasn't sure if this was the right thing to do. Maybe she wasn't. I stood up as she approached. "Hi," I said softly. "Hi," she replied. We stood there for a second longer than necessary. Too much history. Too many unsaid things. Then she sat down. I followed. Silence settled between us immediately. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was full. Full of everything we hadn't said for 8 years. "I didn't know if you'd actually come," she said finally. "I didn't know if you'd want me to," I admitted. She nodded slightly, looking down at her hands. "They told me a lot yesterday," she said. "But it didn't feel like the whole story." "It wasn't," I said. She looked up, and for the first time, there was no anger in her eyes, just uncertainty. "Then tell me," she said. "Simple, direct, no room to hide." I took a breath. "This is going to be hard to hear," I said. "I know," she replied, "but I need it." I nodded, and then, for the first time in 8 years, I told her everything. Not in pieces, not softened, not protected. The whole truth. "Your father wasn't just working in finance," I began. "He was moving money for people he shouldn't have been involved with." Her expression didn't change much at first, just a slight tightening around her eyes. "He didn't tell me at the beginning," I continued. "I found out near the end, about a week before he disappeared." I told her about the second phone, the late nights, the folder, the accounts that didn't make sense, the names, the list. Her breathing slowed, not calm, controlled, like she was forcing herself to stay present. "He told me he was trying to get out," I said, "that he had made a deal with authorities." Her fingers tightened slightly around the edge of the table. "So he wasn't just involved," she said. "He was turning on them." "Yes," I said. "And they found out," she added. "Yes." Silence. Then, "The night he disappeared," she said quietly. "What really happened?" I felt my chest tighten. "That night," I paused, steadying myself. "He came home scared, not angry, not distant, scared." Her eyes flickered. "That's not the man I remember," she said. "I know," I replied. "That's why I didn't tell you." She swallowed. What happened next? I told her. The voices outside, the banging on the door, the police, the chaos, the blood. But no body, no answers. And after that, she asked. They investigated, I said. But they didn't have enough to prove what really happened. So they looked at you, she said. Yes. Because it was easier, she added. Yes. She leaned back slightly, processing. And you let me believe it, she said. The words weren't sharp. They were quiet, but they hurt more. I didn't correct you, I said. That's not the same thing, she asked. No, I admitted, but it led to the same place. Silence again, this time longer, heavier. I hated you, she said finally. The words landed exactly where they were meant to. I know, I said. I thought you destroyed everything, she continued. That you took him away from me. Tears burned behind my eyes. I know, I repeated. She looked at me, really looked at me. And all this time you were protecting him? She asked. No, I said gently. I was protecting you. Her expression shifted. Confusion, pain, understanding, just beginning to form. From what she asked, from the truth I said, from knowing that the man you loved was involved in something dangerous, something that could have put you at risk. Her eyes filled with tears. And you thought losing you was better than that? She whispered. I didn't answer right away, because there was no answer that could make that choice sound right. I thought I was choosing the lesser pain, I said finally. I was wrong. She looked down again, tears slipping quietly onto the table. I spent years believing you were capable of something terrible, she said. I know, I said softly. And you just let me, she asked. Yes. Why? The question came again, but this time I had nothing left to hide behind. Because I was afraid, I said. Afraid that if you knew the truth, you wouldn't just lose him, you'd lose everything you believed in. She shook her head slightly. I already did, she said. The words hit harder than anything else, because she was right. Silence settled again. But this time, it felt different. Not like a wall, more like a space where something new could exist. I don't know what to do with this, she said after a while. You don't have to decide right now, I said. She looked up at me, her eyes softer now. Not healed, not yet, but different. You really never stopped trying to reach me, she asked. Not once, I said. Another pause. Then I blocked your number, she admitted. I know, I said gently. I deleted your messages without listening to them. I figured. I told people you were gone, she said. That one hurt. But I nodded anyway. I understand. She studied me for a long moment, like she was trying to see if I was telling the truth. Not just about the past, but about everything. You still came today, she said. Yes, even after everything I believed about you. Yes, like she was trying to see if I was telling the truth. Not just about the past, but about everything. You still came today, she said. Yes, even after everything I believed about you. Yes. Why I didn't hesitate this time. Because you're my daughter, I said, and that never changed. Her eyes filled again. But this time, she didn't look away. And for the first time in 8 years, she didn't pull back. She just sat there, and let the truth exist between us. We didn't leave the cafe right away. Neither of us seemed ready to step back into the world outside where everything would start moving again, where decisions would have to be made, where the past wouldn't just sit quietly between us, but follow us into whatever came next. So we stayed. Two people separated by 8 years of silence, slowly learning how to exist in the same space again. I don't think I can forgive everything all at once, Lily said after a long time. I wouldn't expect you to, I replied. She nodded her fingers, tracing the rim of her cup. But I don't think I can keep believing you what I used to, either, she added. That I wouldn't expect you to, I replied. She nodded her fingers, tracing the rim of her cup. But I don't think I can keep believing what I used to, either, she added. That meant more than forgiveness. It meant she was letting go of something, even if she didn't fully know what would replace it yet. That's enough, I said softly. She looked at me, almost searching for something in my face. For now, I added. A small, fragile silence settled between us again. But this time, it didn't feel like distance. It felt like space. Space to rebuild. Space to breathe. Space to try. What happens next? She asked. The question I had been avoiding, because the truth was I didn't know. The police are reopening the case, I said. They're going to want to talk to both of us. She tensed slightly. I don't like that, she admitted. I don't either, I said. But it might finally bring answers. Or more questions, she replied. That too, I agreed. She exhaled slowly. And Grandma? She asked. There it was. The part that wasn't just about the past, but about the present. I don't know, I said honestly. She believed what she believed for a long time. She exhaled slowly. And Grandma? She asked. There it was. The part that wasn't just about the past, but about the present. I don't know, I said honestly. She believed what she believed for a long time. She still does, Lily said quietly. I nodded. I'm not asking you to choose between us, I said. I never wanted that. But I already did, she replied. Her voice cracked slightly. And now I don't know how to undo it. You don't have to undo anything, I said. You just move forward, one step at a time. She looked down again. I don't think she'll accept this, she said. If I start questioning things, if I start talking to you. She might not, I said gently. And you're okay with that? Lily asked. The question surprised me. No, I said, but I've learned that you can't control what other people are willing to see. She considered that, then nodded slowly. I guess I'm just tired of being told what the truth is, she said. Then don't let anyone tell you, I replied. Find it yourself. She met my eyes, and for the first time, there was something there that hadn't been there before. Trust. Not complete, not solid, but beginning. I want to help, she said. With the investigation, I asked. With everything, she clarified. With finding out what really happened, with fixing this. My throat tightened. You don't have to carry that, I said. I want to, she replied. The certainty in her voice caught me off guard, because for years, I had been the only one holding this, the only one carrying the weight of what I knew. And now I wasn't alone anymore. We left the cafe together, not side by side at first. There was still a small space between us, but not the kind that separates. The kind that allows two people to walk forward at their own pace. As we reached the parking lot, she hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course. If you could go back, would you tell me the truth sooner?" The question hit deeper than anything else, because I had asked myself that same question 1,000 times. "Yes," I said, without hesitation. "Even if it meant I might hate you?" she asked. "Yes." Why I looked at her, really looked at her, because now I understood something I hadn't understood before. "Because loving you doesn't mean protecting you from pain," I said. "It means being honest, even when it hurts." She held my gaze for a moment, then nodded. I think I needed to hear that, she said. I smiled faintly. I think I needed to say it. Another pause. "Then I'm not ready to come home," she said. "I know," I replied. "But can we meet again?" she asked. "Hope, real hope this time." "Yes," I said. "Okay," she said softly. She took a step back, then another. But this time, it didn't feel like she was leaving. It felt like she was giving us both space to come back. "Bye, Mom," she said. The word still felt fragile, but it was there. "Bye, Lily," I replied, and just like that, she turned and walked away. Not out of my life, but into something new, something uncertain, something real. I stood there for a long time after she left, watching the space where she had been, letting everything settle. 8 years. 8 years of silence, of misunderstanding, of pain. And now something had finally shifted. Not everything, not all at once, but enough. Enough to begin again. Because sometimes the truth doesn't fix everything. Sometimes it breaks things even more. But it also gives you something you can't build anything without. A foundation. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we finally had one. For years, I believed that silence was a form of protection. That if I carried the truth alone, I could shield the people I loved from pain, from fear, from losing the image they held onto so tightly. But I was wrong. Because silence doesn't protect. It isolates. It creates distance where there should be understanding, and it allows assumptions to grow into something stronger than the truth itself. I lost my daughter, not because of what happened that night, but because I chose not to speak. And the hardest lesson I've learned is this: love is not about controlling the story to keep someone safe. It's about trusting them with the truth. But because I chose not to speak, and the hardest lesson I've learned is this: love is not about controlling the story to keep someone safe. It's about trusting them with the truth, even when it's complicated, even when it's painful, even when it might change everything. Because the truth, no matter how difficult, gives people the chance to choose to understand and to heal. If you've ever been in a situation where you thought staying silent was the right thing to do, I want to ask you this. Did it really protect the people you love, or did it slowly push them away? I'd really like to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced something like this, where the truth came out too late, or where silence cost you something important? Share your story in the comments. And if this story touched you in any way, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. You're not alone in what you feel. And sometimes hearing someone else's story is the first step to understanding your own. Sometimes the deepest wounds in our lives are not caused by what people did to us, but by what was never said. We often believe that silence is kindness, that by hiding painful truths, we are protecting the people we love from heartbreak, from fear, from losing the version of the world they hold on to. But silence has a quiet cost. It builds distance. It creates misunderstanding. And over time, it can turn love into doubt and closeness into separation. The hardest lesson in this story is simple but not easy. Love is not about controlling the truth. It's about trusting someone enough to face it with them. Truth can hurt. It can shatter illusions. It can change how we see people we once believed we understood completely. But without truth, there is no real connection, no real healing, no real second chance. If you've ever stayed silent because you thought it was the right thing to do, ask yourself honestly, did it protect your relationship or slowly break it? And if you've ever judged someone without knowing their full story, maybe it's worth asking, what might you be missing? Because sometimes the people we think hurt us the most were the ones trying the hardest to protect us. If this story touched you, I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced a moment where the truth came too late or where silence changed everything? Share your feelings in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. And if you believe in stories that heal, that reveal, and that remind us what really matters, don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I always love seeing how far these stories reach. You're not alone. And sometimes, understanding begins with simply listening.